If you're in search of the good life, you're going to go to Europe or somewhere else, right? People go there in search of that. People come here to America for the opportunity. And America is uniquely challenging in that respect. It's uniquely challenging and also uniquely punitive in that respect. I love working with expats. I've done this job in the UK, in the Middle East, and in America, and what I've come to realise is... Welcome to Expat Wealth, a Plan First Wealth podcast dedicated to helping ambitious, US-connected expats thrive. I'm your host, Richard Taylor, and Plan First Wealth is the business I founded and run today, and we work with successful expats, immigrants, and internationally minded Americans to make the most of their opportunities and avoid the expat landmines. First, a quick disclaimer. While Plan First Wealth LLC is an SEC-registered investment advisor, the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Plan First Wealth. Information presented is for educational purposes only. Now, if you aren't already receiving our regular emails, please go to our website, www.planfirstwealth.com, and sign up there. It's free, and you'll then be notified every time we drop a new episode, and so much more. Okay, let's get back to this week's show. Hello, James. Welcome to our inaugural episode of Expat Wealth.
Thanks for having us. It's a whole new episode.
It's a whole new format. So if anyone is scratching their head right now wondering what I'm talking about, let me explain. So you're not in the wrong place. This was We're the Brits in America, but it is now Expat Wealth. We are debuting a entirely new, well, not entirely new. There's a lot we're pulling over from We're the Brits in America, but we have a new show name, a new format, so to speak, and a wider scope. And this episode, which is not going to be very long, is just going to be introducing Expat Wealth to you and explaining what it's going to be and also really why we're doing this.
Whole new changes, but we're really excited. We always talk about, a lot of this podcast is focused on growth, is focused on the questions we get from listeners. And this is in large part trying to meet that demand, right? Trying to answer the questions that we see and we hear from our audience most often.
It's evolving, right? We're new. Podcasting is relatively new and we're new to podcasting. And this really came about because I inhale podcasts. I listen to podcasts constantly. I love them. And it turns out I enjoy podcasting. And I've learned an awful lot as well. And the feedback we're getting suggests that people appreciate it and enjoy it. So we really just want to expand on this. So what am I talking about? Right. So We're the Brits in America was bi-weekly, and it was primarily focused on, as the name suggested, Brits living in America. Expat Wealth, which is the new name, Expat Wealth is going to be weekly, and the scope is going to be much wider. It's going to be for all what we're calling US-connected expatriates. So that's obviously foreign nationals in America, people like me, but also other foreign nationals, Irish, South African, Australian, European, etc., etc., but also Americans abroad. So US-connected expats, foreign nationals in America, not just Brits, foreign nationals, and Americans abroad. And our core constituency will always be Brits, because I'm a Brit. But 80% of what we talk about is relevant for all expats, including Americans abroad, because a lot of all the stuff we talk about, it applies to Americans overseas, and in some ways it's even worse for Americans overseas. So our core constituency will remain Brits, but we're just widening the scope because we can, because most of what we talk about is relevant for them, and because it's interesting, and these people also this information needs to be out there.
Yep. You know what else, Richard, too, is a growing portion of our audience are connected through the U.S., having been here and then returned elsewhere. What I mean by that is, for an example, a Brit who has come to the U.S., worked for maybe many years, and now is going to move back to the UK, potentially with citizenship, or at the very least with some sort of portfolio, investment assets, interest in the US. And a lot of the problems we cover, as you mentioned, are just as relevant for them having returned to the motherland, so to speak, and needing to continue to manage and maintain those cross-border considerations.
Yeah. Or even we have a client who returned to Portugal. So then you have a Brit American living in Portugal with US assets, UK income streams and assets, and now Portuguese matters as well. So exactly. And look, I just want to spend a minute giving people some how and why this came about. So first of all, I love working with expats. Right. I've done this job in the UK, in the Middle East, and in America. And what I've come to realize is I really, really enjoy working with expats. I should say I've worked with business owners. I've worked with expats. I've worked with retirees. And I really, really, really appreciate expats. And I've come to believe that's because expatriates are a certain... Look, I know I'm not very objective here. You know, I am an expat myself. Therefore, I'm arguing I'm very biased.
I can back you up here. I can back you up, I'll echo what you're saying.
Okay, good. I find expats to be, in general, ambitious, adventurous, and open-minded. And I like those sorts of people.
Absolutely.
I also think immigration is phenomenally important to America. Like there's that famous stat about immigrants start more businesses. There's more immigrant entrepreneurs than there are. And I think that's very much linked to what I just said. Expats are adventurous. They are risk-taking. They're open-minded. They're not necessarily afraid of a failure. And I think they're all the key ingredients for entrepreneurship as well. So I don't think it's any surprise that immigrants start more businesses and are more entrepreneurial. And then I think coming to America, I've said this to you before, you don't come to America for the good life, right? If you're in search of the good life, and look, I know I'm talking from a very, very, very privileged perspective here. I acknowledge that, but let's just be clear: the sort of people we're talking to and about are educated Western expats, right? They do have options, and if you're in search of the good life, you know, the Dolce Vita, you're going to go to Europe or somewhere else, right? People go there in search of that. People come here to America for the opportunity. In my experience, exactly. In my opinion, people come here because they're doing well at work. They get a tap on the shoulder and they said, listen, do you want to go and try your hand in America? And people say yes, because it's still the land of opportunity.
The opportunity is enormous.
The opportunity is enormous, and it's kind of you're given the opportunity to go to the biggest market with the best educated and the most successful people and see if you can hold your own. And ambitious people are attracted to that, and that's how a lot of people end up in America. And America's a wonderful place, but you come here, you're much further from your family and your friends than you are in Europe. You work hard, you get less vacation, and you're striving. And I think that makes it even more important when you look at the rationale of why people are coming here, what they're coming for. I think it's even more important, therefore, that their personal financial situation is taken care of. They take advantage of the opportunities we talk about, but also they avoid the myriad landmines that we're always talking about. And America is uniquely challenging in that respect. It's uniquely challenging and also uniquely punitive in that respect. There are landmines abound. And if you're coming to America for the opportunity to make it, you don't want to undermine it or jeopardize it by stepping on some of these landmines that can be avoided. Mm-hmm. And the podcast really started because I was having the same conversations one-on-one with people. And that led into a blog that then has morphed into a podcast. And now we're expanding it.
You know, it's such a good point. And I think it echoes what you talked about. You know, why do we do this and why are we expanding and what drives us and what keeps things interesting? That complexity, that very complexity that you mentioned is a big part of it. Right. And our job, our remit, our mission with this podcast and the other, you know, content articles that we produce is to get that information out there, because it's not easy, right, to find good information in this space. And if we can help our target audience understand this complexity and then successfully navigate it, that's job done, right? That's what we want to be doing. And that certainly keeps things interesting, and keeps us and our audience engaged, or at least we hope so, right?
Yeah. For expats coming into America, I think it's super important that they take advantage of opportunities and they avoid the landmines and they make the most of their opportunity here, because they're coming here to make it for the most part, for the opportunity. Now, going the other way though, why I want to deal with Americans overseas is partly to what you said before about the fact that we have clients like this. Our clients go back regularly and then encounter these issues, go back as US citizens, I should say, and then encounter these issues. But also, what I was just saying about America being it's a land of hard work. And I think more and more Americans are now waking up to expatriating. And it's almost laughable that I say that, because everyone says Americans don't go abroad, and there's something like 7 or 8 million Americans abroad, right? There's loads, right? It's just that there's like something like 350 million odd Americans. So I guess percentage wise, it's not that many, but there are lots and lots of Americans abroad, but there are more and more. And this movement is snowballing. It's not just political. The Americans looking to spend time temporarily or permanently outside of America is snowballing right now. And I can see why. So you've worked in America, you've grown up, you've worked in America for 30 years. You've worked really, really hard. You've done really, really well. And the world seems smaller than ever. And going and spending 10 years or longer in Europe is very, very attractive. Then they are in search of the good life. What's that phrase? I've quoted this to you a million times. America is a business. Japan is a nursing home. Europe is a museum. Right? Think about it. If you're working, if you're striving, if you're trying to achieve, where would you want to work? You want to be in a business. Therefore, you want to be in America. But then you've done that. You've succeeded. You've made it. You've saved, right? You're looking at the twilight of your life, the final third. Would you rather spend it living in a business or living in a museum? And Europe is a living, breathing museum. And I think that makes Europe and other places, but particularly Europe, extremely attractive to a certain sort of American right now, in search of that La Dolce Vita after 30 odd years of striving and working hard in America. And all these issues that we've talked about, and we talk about regularly in the podcast, apply overseas. Only, I guess now, the stakes are even higher because this is someone who's amassed a certain amount of wealth. And therefore, penalties, fees, mistakes can be much, much more costlier. And I want to support Americans looking overseas. I don't want them to think, it'd be nice to live in France one day and then not do anything about it. I want them to go and do it. But I want them to do it in such a way that they do so most financially advantageously, which is, as we always say, taking advantage of the opportunities and avoiding the landmines. And there are both.
It's something that echoes back to something we talk to our clients about. I'm sure we've covered on the podcast, is shifting from that accumulation phase, right? If we're mapping that to America as a business in this example, into that decumulation or distribution, right? And really assessing a few things. Number one, what does that lifestyle look like, right? And for a lot of people right now, and certainly to your point, Richard, we are trending upwards in this direction, is Americans considering, do I want to go back? Or expats, like I said earlier, who have come here and are now considering, where do I really want to spend time in this twilight zone? And that commensurate added importance, priority, urgency to begin protecting, what you've built up, what you've spent time in that business working on, and making sure you're doing that in a way that's cognizant of 1, 2, potentially 3 or more jurisdictions and tax codes and regulation systems, all those things that we need to be cognizant of, that we hope to cover in this new format.
Yep. So that's what we're doing. Expat Wealth, a weekly show. So the formats are changing slightly. You and I will continue to do a monthly From the Trenches show where we're playing with the format, but really we're going to try and answer one question each week. We talk to clients on prospective clients on a daily basis almost. We get asked a lot of questions, and we're going to just try and pick the most pertinent one we think we've been asked in the last month, and then answer that question to hopefully help other expats, whilst also talking about building this business and working with clients and just providing some insight there. I'm going to be doing a regular kind of like markets investment show with currently Brian Dunhill from Dunhill Financial, but might have other guests on as well to talk about this. Just not like necessarily what's happening right now, but just like the broader themes of what's going on as sound investments. And then the most popular show we have by far is the Ask an Expert, where we get in a tax professional or a legal professional, someone in this space to come and talk about the topics that really matter for expats in America. So that's going to be twice a month with the other shows. So we're gonna and that's happening immediately. Next up, I've got Chris Hall from PKF on to talk about UK pensions. I am recovering from the flu in this episode, so I look and sound absolutely abysmal. For anyone wondering, James and I are recording this on the 5th of January. We meant to re-record this before Christmas, but we both had the flu, and it took us and everyone down hard.
Completely unconnected too, bizarrely, right?
Yeah.
300 miles apart probably, and
yeah.
It just was a bad season for it.
Yeah.
But we've bounced back and we're ready for a successful 2026.
Yes, we're back now, so we'll keep this one short, but Expat Wealth is a new format, all things US connected expats. We want to help US connected expats. That's foreign nationals in America and Americans overseas. These are our people. We want them to thrive. And that starts, I think, by sharing this information and this knowledge and hopefully helping people avoid the landmines, take advantage of the opportunities, and make the most of their opportunity.
Absolutely. And part of this, we want to say, and as we reflect on the new year here, thank you all for who have listened. And we really are excited to bring you all along in this new phase of the journey. The theme is more, right? More episodes, more coverage, more experts, and hopefully more engagement, right? We really enjoy that. So any questions, comments, send them through. We're always happy to incorporate that into the episodes as we go. We want to hear, what kind of content our audience is thinking about. It's really important to us.
Yeah, please. And ask us questions. We will try and answer them on the show. Right. On that note, James, I'll see you soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Ta-ra. All right, folks. That's another episode of Expat Wealth under our belts. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. If you're enjoying the show and would like to support the mission, which is to help ambitious US-connected expats to thrive, I'd ask you to subscribe to the pod wherever you listen and also consider leaving a rating and review. This stuff really does matter. Please help us get this information to the people who need it, that is, to your fellow expats. Just a quick reminder that this show is brought to you by Plan First Wealth. We are a US-based financial planner and wealth manager, and we help successful expatriate families make the most of their opportunity and ultimately to retire happier. If you'd like to know more about how we might be able to help you, you can find us on our website or you can look me up on LinkedIn. Do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. As always, thank you to the podcast guys for their help producing this episode and the entire show. See you next week.